Welcome back to the news at 10. The Nigerian Army is calling for a national policy on integration and sharing of data in the country to reduce cost and unnecessary duplication. The Chief of Army Staff, who was speaking through the Acting Commander, Technical Intelligence Command of the Nigerian Army, Colonel Obinna Azibike, made the suggestion at the meeting organized by Sambus Geospatial Nigeria Limited and the Environmental Systems Research Institute. Our correspondent Terry Ikumi reports.
The theme of this gathering, spatial and artificial intelligence, the emerging trends for economic growth, clearly explains why the hall is filled to capacity with professionals from different sectors of the country, including the military. The rapid rate of advancement in geospatial technology is a challenge for artificial intelligence in Nigeria. Colonel Obinna Azibike is the Acting Commander, Technical Intelligence Command of the Nigerian Army, representing the Chief of Army Staff.
Geospatial systems cannot exist in the absence of skilled or competent persons who can make the best use of tools and who are knowledgeable on how to utilize data derived from the system. This is observed to be lacking in the Nigerian Army, as there is a handful of personnel with the requisite training on GIS platform.
Put together by the Environmental Systems Research Institute (ESRI) and Sambus Geospatial Nigeria Limited. This breakfast meeting is centered on how Geographic Information System (GIS) can improve data collection and sharing in the country.
We suggest that this can only be effective if a national policy for the integration and sharing of data is formulated and effectively implemented. And of course, this will reduce cost and unnecessary duplication of effort across the various agencies of the country.
The GIS, according to ESRI, reveals deeper insights into data, such as patterns, relationships, and situations, helping users make smarter decisions, as explained by the keynote speakers.
Geography through GIS influences all aspects of the economy, including the oil and gas industry, security, financial, statistics, utilities, communication, manufacturing, supply chain, educational, NGO, among others.
These days, the GIS technology has become big not only in Africa, even in Europe, and Europeans are using it the most. They call something precision agriculture. In precision agriculture, we are using drones to even irrigate the land.
The speakers at this event unanimously agree that the GIS technology will improve virtually every sector of the country, especially in the area of crime fighting, and as such should be prioritized by the government. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
From there we move on to some business news. Here's Anne Waudu.
You First. First Bank.
Thank you, Ijoma. Let's begin business news tonight with the Securities and Exchange Commission giving its approval for the Lagos Commodity and Futures Exchange to begin operation as a full-fledged trading platform. According to a letter of approval issued by the Commission's Department of Registration, Exchange and Market Infrastructure from the Director General, Mary Uduk, the final approval takes effect from June the 14th this year. The new approval of the Commodities and Future Exchange, which is being promoted by the Association of Securities Dealing Houses, follows an approval in principle earlier granted by the Commission. The SEC has also approved the appointment of a top management team to drive the operations of the new trading platform. Dangote Sugar Refinery, which is a subsidiary of the Dangote Group, has declared a dividend of 13.2 billion naira as part of 1 naira 10 kobo per ordinary share of 50 kobo each. The company has also declared a profit before tax of 34.6 billion naira and a profit after tax of 22 billion naira for the financial year ended December the 31st, 2018.
It is the 13th annual general meeting of Dangote Sugar Refinery PLC.
Number 2019.
The shareholders are keen on performance as well as the projections. The company says it is moving towards self-sufficiency in sugar production, but smuggling seems to be a major problem facing its business.
The biggest challenge which we are now working with government is that of smuggling. because at a point we are not even selling anything around the Katsina, Sokoto, KB axis because of that forest border, and the smuggling, has been sort of going on almost on a daily basis.
But despite its challenges, the company approved the payment of a total dividend of 13.3 billion naira.
Dear shareholders, the board has recommended a cash dividend of 1 naira 10 kobo per share, per ordinary share of 50 kobo each, be declared for the financial year ended 31st December 2018.
The shareholders are confident about the company's prospects.
The company has a lot of prosperity, being led by the richest person in Africa who has been very successful. So we believe next year the dividend will be much higher than what it was this year.
We are happy with the dividend, especially considering the vicissitudes that prevail this country today, that they are still able to make that much.
By next year, God willing, our profit will increase, and even our dividend will increase.
Some of the community issues, because in the area where we are doing the backward integration, growing the sugarcane by ourselves, we are facing a couple of challenges, but we are also working with the Sugar Development Council to address those issues.
Dangote Sugar PLC, a household name in the sugar refining sector of the Nigerian food and beverage industry, commenced business in Nigeria in March 2000 as the sugar division of the Dangote Industries.
Let's check out the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Sell pressure continues at the domestic market for a second day this week, despite moderate gains from 4 key subsectors of the NSE. Ekaite Afia has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The month of June still remains depressed for the stock market as the combination of economic uncertainty, investor apathy, and sustained profit-taking pushed the main index further away from the 30,000 level, down by 0.39%. Now this comes despite moderate gains from the oil and gas, banking, and insurance subsectors, which was curtailed by the 1.22% drop from the consumer goods sector on the back of a share price drop from bellwether components. However, unusual trading activity continues on the shares of Wema Bank a second day this week as it contributed over 92% of today's trading at 2.39 billion shares. Overall transactions carried out in Tuesday's session stands at 2.91 billion shares, worth 11.22 billion naira in over 3,200 deals. Champion is the best price performer out of 20 gainers, up 10%, while Akomu Oil is worst among 21 laggers, 10% in the negative territory. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ekaite Afia.
Thank you, Ekaite. Stocks on Wall Street have closed higher today on hopes of a trade deal between the United States and China after President Donald Trump said he will be meeting with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping at the upcoming G20 summit in Japan. It's also positive for other major global equities markets. For those numbers and business news tonight, thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. It's back to you, Joma.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks, Anne. Let's take a look at some international news. Here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. The US military will send an additional 1,000 troops to the Middle East as tensions build with Iran. It comes as the US Navy released new images it says link Iran to attacks last week on 2 oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman. Washington has accused the country of blowing holes in the vessels with mines, allegations Iran denies. The acting defense secretary says the deployment of 1,000 troops was in response to what he described as hostile behavior by Iranian forces. In response, Iran's president Hassan Rouhani has said America's efforts to keep Iran secluded has been unsuccessful. The EU has called for an independent investigation into the two tanker attacks to avoid any military tension escalations.
A common approach that all the member states expressed, that of trying to focus all our action, all our diplomatic work to try to avoid an escalation and actually help de-escalating.
Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam has said the extradition bill that sparked mass protests is now unlikely to pass. However, at a news conference, she stopped short of saying the bill would be completely withdrawn, and she also refused to resign. Organisers say almost 2 million people protested on Sunday, demanding she step down over the bill.
If we do not have that level of confidence to address those anxieties and fears and differences in opinion, we will not proceed with the legislative exercise again.
More than 300,000 people have fled into ethnic violence in northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo since early June. That's according to several aid agencies. At least 161 people have died in this northeastern province of the country in the last week in ethnic clashes between farming and herding communities. Survivors say people were killed by attackers armed with machetes, while homes were also set on fire. A series of attacks in Ituri province has mostly targeted Hema herders, who have long been in conflict with Lendu farmers over grazing rights. Open conflict between Hema and Lendu from 1999 to 27 resulted in an estimated 50,000 deaths.
The situation in Ituri province has worsened since the middle of the last week, with multiple attacks involving the Hema and Lendu groups.
The former Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi has been buried following his sudden death in court yesterday. The cemetery where he was laid to rest is being heavily guarded as criticism mounts about the conditions he was kept in ahead of his death. Hundreds of Muslim Brotherhood supporters gathered in the Turkish cities of Ankara and Istanbul on Tuesday to mourn his passing. The 67-year-old had been in custody since his removal from office in 2013. Last year, a report on Morsi's detention was highly critical of the conditions of his incarceration.
Remember, he was being completely isolated. There was no bed to sleep on. He had really 2 blankets was all he was given. 3 visits from his family would appear over 6 years. These are conditions of isolation, non-medical treatment that would sustain potentially that charge of torture. And torture is a crime of universal jurisdiction.
The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was among 2 million people at a victory parade in Toronto, which was interrupted by gunfire that injured 2 people. Fans scattered in chaotic scenes immediately after the shootings, which seriously injured 2 people. It happened as the NBA champions, the Toronto Raptors, were having their victory parade through the city on Monday. At least 12 people have died and a further 125 injured after an earthquake hit the Changchun province of Yibin in China. This early warning system alarmed the public in Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan province, an hour before the earthquake struck. The same system also alerted residents in Yibin city 10 seconds before. CCTV shows the moment the magnitude 6 quake hit, with people running from houses and shops to avoid being buried in any collapse. And finally, 74,000 dancers and more than 4,000 musicians have taken part in the annual Lord Jesus of the Great Power Festival in the Bolivian city of La Paz. The festival fuses Andean and Catholic cultures. During the festivities, women compete in the Queen of the Great Power contest, where participants perform the dance they represent. The judges take into account the dress and choreography. The first place winner receives a kitchen, the second place finisher a refrigerator, and the third place gets a microwave oven. And that's your national news around the world in 5.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Still ahead on the news at 10. Former UEFA President Michel Platini arrested following investigation into corruption allegations in selection of Qatar as host of the 2022 World Cup. That's on sports this week.